Jessie here. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. For today's video, I'm going to be checking in with my monthly budget here. I have my 2-page hybrid budget worksheet in front of me. This is where I keep track of all of my monthly expenses as well as where I check in weekly with my variable categories. I have already tracked all of my spending for the week in a previous video. I went through, wrote down all of our transactions for the week, where all of our money went. So if you're interested in that, make sure you go back and check it out. But I'm going to use this information now to check in with my budget. We are checking in for week 3 here. I'm also going to go ahead and fill in the actual columns on a couple of my monthly bills. So I'm going to zoom in. My apologies for the shadow there. And we're just going to get started because this video, I don't want to get too long. So if we look here at my expense tracker, which, by the way, if you are interested in any of these worksheets that I'm using today, check the description box down below. I have my Etsy shop linked below. You can buy my worksheets that way and download them, print them yourself, or you can get them as perks for certain membership tiers. All that information will be listed down below. My July worksheets are coming soon as well, so be on the lookout for that. But I wrote all of my bills that I paid this week out here in my expense tracker and highlighted them in blue, so it would be really easy to find them while I fill in this category. These are one-time transactions, so they only need to be tracked once. So it's real easy just to go ahead once the bill is paid and write in the amount for the actual column. So starting out with DTE, which we paid this week, I spent $224.11. DTE went up a little bit this month, and I was not expecting that. So we're on a budget billing plan with DTE. I didn't think it was time for our annual review. What they do is they get like an average and they charge you that every month, and then at the end of the year they reevaluate, and if you used more than what you paid, then you pay the difference, or they add it on and they split that up 12 ways and add it on for the next year. So I don't know if that's what they did or if I just missed something, but it did go up a little bit, so we're over budget a little bit in DTE, but that's okay. I think we're gonna have enough of a buffer to cover that. And then Michigan Gas came out this week. That was $43, and that was under budget, so that's nice. And then we have just one more bill that came out this week. It was our camper payment. It was $200. You can see here my camper, I budgeted $200, it was $200, so we are on track there. So that's it for this monthly section. Now we're going to get into the variable section here. I'm actually going to pull this worksheet right out. I love having my worksheets punched using this disc bound system because it makes it real easy to pull out of my book, rearrange things in my budget binder, which I do all the time. Plus, I don't have to write against those rings, or I guess they're discs. All right, so I'm going to zoom out just a touch, and we're going to talk about my variable categories. So with my bills, those are one-time things, so it's real easy. I can just, whenever the bill is paid, write it in this actual column. But for things like groceries and eating out, these are categories that I spend from more than just once a month. So I keep track of that spending week to week to give me an overall look at how I'm doing for my overall budget. So the categories are grocery, which is all of our groceries plus any household items, and also pet items fall under this grocery category. We have eating out, so anytime that we go to a restaurant or drive through or we get delivery. We have spending, which is spending outside of those two categories. If we buy something for the house that's not like toilet paper, if we buy new plates or we buy new bath towels or whatever, that's spending. Then we have, this month I added a Sam's Club line item because I was planning on going to Sam's Club and I didn't want the trip to Sam's Club to mess up our grocery budget, so I just had it as a separate line item in my budget. We still at this point haven't been to Sam's Club, and now it's already the day that I'm filming this, the 19th, so I don't even know if we're going to end up going to Sam's Club at all this month. We just haven't found the time, honestly. There's things that we could definitely get from Sam's Club and use, snacks and stuff that we could stock up the house with, but there's nothing we absolutely need. So I may just push the Sam's Club trip off until July, but just in case, I'm going to continue to include it here in my June budget. Maybe we'll find time this week to go, who knows. And then lastly, I have auto pay, which are all of the little bills that come out of my account automatically, memberships, that sort of thing, subscriptions, etc. So I have already gone down the list, written all of my transactions out and added them all up here. So I just need to put these numbers in here under the spent section. So for grocery, I spent $319.63 this week. Oh, by the way, we are tracking for June 11th through June 17th. My weekly check-ins always start on a Tuesday and end on a Monday. My new budget week always starts on Tuesday because that's when my husband and I are paid. In eating out this week, we spent $126.86. You can see it there in yellow. Spending is in green at $151.02. Nothing in Sam's Club. Like I said, we still have not been to Sam's Club. And auto pay, you can see in this light purple color, $88.81. So that's it. I don't really need my expense tracker anymore, so I can set that off to the side. And that's everything we spent this week. Oh, I've already gotten a total as well. It was $686.32. So it was a higher spending week. Definitely more spending than we did in the prior 2 weeks. So that doesn't bode well for the budget. Anytime you spend more than you have been spending, it's not a good thing. But let's see what we have remaining in each of these categories. So the way I figure that out is I take a look at my overall monthly budget for those categories, and then I just subtract out what I've spent, and that gives me what's remaining. So for example, for groceries, I started out the month at $1,200 in my grocery budget, and at the end of last week, after we'd tracked week 1 and week 2, we had $839.45 remaining. So $839.45. That's what we had remaining. And then this week, we spent $319.63. So that means we have $519.82 left to spend for the month. And I know that there are still 2 full weeks left. So I like to just divide this number by 2 and get a feel for how much I could spend each week and still come in under budget. $259.91. So that's less than we spent this week. But since we spent so much this week, we do have quite a few groceries on hand. We do need some things. But I don't think we're going to spend $259.91 this week. I could be wrong. The grocery store never ceases to surprise me with how much everything costs, but I think we'll be okay this week. Will we be okay overall for the month? Will we come in under budget? That's yet to be seen, but I think we'll be okay. So $259.91 each week over the next 2 weeks. If I spend that or less, I'll be able to stick to my budget. Now, if I spend $400 next week, that's okay. It just means I'll have less to spend the subsequent week, right? I just like to get an average, a feel for it. Okay, for eating out, at the beginning of the month, I set a budget of $400. At the end of last week, we had $249.67 remaining. And we spent a lot of that this week. We spent $126.86, which means we have $122.81 remaining. it looks like on average I spend about $100 a week on eating out, which is too much. I mean, ideally I would spend none, but there's still 2 weeks left. So if I were to do that, spend $100 over the next 2 weeks, I would be over budget. So what I need to do is stick with $61 or less each week if I want to stick to my budget. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be tough. We're a busy family. We rely on, fast food, eating out a lot on busy weekdays, but I did do a meal plan this week. I did go grocery shopping, get everything I need. I'm filming this on a Wednesday. Our new budget week starts Tuesday. So I'm already a couple of days into week 4, just kind of checking in with week 3 a little bit late. So I can give you a little bit of a spoiler alert. So far, so good in terms of eating out and groceries, but the week is not over yet. So we'll see next week when I check in if we can stick to that, but it might be tough. We'll see. All right. For spending, I started out the month at $500. At the end of last week, we had used more than half of that, and we had $249.67 remaining. Did I mess up? Huh, I did. I think I took $249.67 as my eating out total when I did this math, didn't I? Were you guys screaming at me? Eating out was $204.94 at the end of last week, and I spent $126.86, so it's even worse than I thought. It's not $122.81 for eating out. It's $78.08 for eating out. So that whole long tangent I just went on is even more true. I need to do better with eating out because it's even worse than I thought. We really only have $40 or less to spend in the next 2 weeks. My apologies. Thank you for those of you that were screaming at me. I'm sorry that I'm a little slow on the uptake today. The $249.67 is what we had left at the end of last week for spending. This week we spent $151.02, which means we have $98.65 remaining. We're not doing so hot this weekend or this month at all, are we? It is a longer month. The way that it worked out with the dates, we ended up with 5 weeks this month. And when I wrote my budget, I didn't realize that. I was kind of thinking in my head that it was 4 weeks. So that plays a part, but also we've just been overspending. We've been doing too much eating out. We've been doing too much spending. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. We can spend $49.32 a week for the next 2 weeks to stay on track. Now, the good news is we haven't been to Sam's Club, so we still have the full $300 for Sam's Club. If it works out that we don't go to Sam's Club, then I could reallocate these funds to help cover any overspending in these other categories. But ideally, I'd like to just come in under budget in all the categories. And I'm really going to have to work hard the next 2 weeks to spend less in eating out and spending if that's going to happen. All right, and then for auto pay, I started out the month. Where is auto pay? Oh, right here, $300. At the end of last week, we still had $174.39. We spent $88.81 this week. So we have $85.58. Now, autopay doesn't really work the same way as these other categories because the bills that come out automatically are what they are. I don't really have any control over them. I just include the autopay in this variable section, even though technically they're not variable expenses, because it's easier for me to do that than write out all of the bills that come out automatically individually here. This whole section would be completely full with like $20, $6, $18 transactions, and it just clutters up my page. It looks not so nice. So I include it with my variables so I can keep track of the individual bills that come out each week and just add the amount each week to get a total for the month. That's just a personal preference. A lot of people have said they don't really understand why I do that, just so that my page looks prettier overall. So yeah, What I've discovered is that we are not doing quite as well as I thought. This seems like that happens a lot. I always feel like we spent less than we did. You guys will have to tell me if you experience that as well, where you add everything up at the end of the week and you're like, oh, that was more than I expected, because that happens to me like every week. But I'm going to add up our total amount remaining. $1,082.13 remaining. And I do that because, much like I said with Sam's Club, I can reallocate those funds if I don't use them for Sam's Club. So I'd like to stick to my each individual budget for each line item. But if I go over a little bit in one category and I have money left in another category to cover it, I don't sweat it too much. So it's fun to get a feel for how much I can spend in variable spending overall as well. So this, if I divide this by 2, we can spend $541.06 in each of the next 2 weeks in these variable categories and still come in under budget. And that's more than what we spent in week 1 and week 2. So that's doable. That, of course, is provided I don't end up at Sam's Club and spending this full $300 on even more groceries. So we'll have to see how the week goes, or how the rest of the month goes, really. But maybe I will just make the executive decision not to go to Sam's Club. I don't know. We have to go to Sam's Club when it's convenient. It's not super, super close. It's not like it's right down the road. We have to make a special trip there. My husband and I always go together. The kids like to go with us. So we'll see if I end up at Sam's Club. I do have a buffer in my budget here of $200 should I need that. So it's nice that I can fall back on that if I need to. Also, I just realized that savings challenge, I budgeted $300. I took that money out at the very beginning of the month. So that could have been entered in a long time ago. All right, you guys, that's it. It's so important to check in with your budget regularly so you can make sure you stay on track. No sense in setting a budget and then ignoring it, because that's a surefire way to end up overspending. All right. If you like this video, will you give it a thumbs up? That really helps out my channel. I appreciate it so much. Other great ways you can support me: click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Join my channel membership, check out my Etsy shop. I would love it so much if you would do any or all of those things. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you guys real soon with some more fun content.